Hi, welcome to the Avid Knits podcast. My name is Sarah, and you can find me on Instagram and Ravelry, both as Avid Knits. There is an Avid Knits podcast group on Ravelry. If you search under the groups tab, you should find us there. Today is August 29th, and I am coming to you from Houston, Texas, where it is hot. But it's cloudy outside. The air conditioner and the fan are both on. I'm wearing a sweater. I have my coffee and my really cute little knitted Starbucks mug. And if I squint just right and don't move really fast, I can almost pretend like fall might get here someday. For those of you who don't know or who are not in the continental US, fall in the South Coast along the Gulf of Mexico is absolutely non-existent. The closest thing that we might get is the trees will die. And that usually happens about late November, just after Thanksgiving. But we don't get the fall foliage or anything. My area in particular, and I know that this is true along most of the Gulf, has a lot of live oaks, which are like oak trees, but their leaves are smaller and they're kind of waxy. It's an evergreen. It's an evergreen tree. They grow really tall and they spread out. They grow really fast. You'll find them all over the southern states. They're absolutely beautiful, but because they are evergreen, it continuously looks like July here. It's pretty. It's hot. It's over it. Over it. All right. In the immortal words of Amy Florence, this is not a weather podcast, although you may be forgiven for thinking that it is. I'm not sure if you can see on the camera or really, I have the camera facing the other way this time. I flipped to front facing for a little bit just to kind of see how I felt about it. And I don't hate it, but I think that the quality is better with the rear facing camera. I have a new S10, the Galaxy S10, and it has 6 cameras. So I figured that since I have the new camera, I might as well utilize it because, you know. Anyway, let me see if I can tell. I hope that doesn't really change very much. Okay, so tangent. My tangent was that I have my little llama co-host who still needs a name. I've only gotten 2 suggestions. You guys, suggest me a name, win a prize, right? So I'm going to keep that open for a little bit longer, maybe until the next time I podcast and see what else we can get coming through. Yeah. He's looking like an Edgar to me right now, but we'll see. We'll see what happens with him. And my spider co-host is hanging out on the window because he knows it's podcast day. Should have a name for the spider too. Jeffrey. His name is Jeffrey. And I'm going to name him Jeffrey because my son is obsessed with the TV show on Netflix right now called The Deep. It's actually really good. It's about a group of underwater explorers who are basically looking for, I don't know, the Netflix version of Atlantis, I guess, sort of. And one of the kids trains a reef fish, which might as well be a goldfish. Basically, he trains a goldfish to be his friend, and he names him Jeffrey. And so my son is obsessed with this show, and all fish are named Jeffrey right now. So it's a friendly name. I'll go with it. I like it. So we have Jeffrey over here, and to be determined right here. And that is so many tangents already. I just got here. Here it is, you guys. Get ready. If you are a new viewer, hi. Thank you so much for checking out the podcast. I hope that I haven't scared you off yet. This is a knitting podcast and a crochet podcast and stuff with yarn. I promise. It's here. Thank you so much for checking me out. There are a million podcasts, and I'm really, really happy that you chose to spend some time with me today. If you're a returning viewer, I feel like I should just be saying that you know what you're getting yourself into, but I feel like as the farther that we go along, the weirder the podcasts get. Yeah. Right at the top of the episode, I am going to ask you to excuse me over the eye watering. I don't know. It was fine until like 15 minutes ago, and now it's watering like crazy, so nothing I can do about that. And also, I wanted to say that the Summer Sun Make-Along does close this weekend, so please use the hashtag on Instagram or pop your projects into the Ravelry thread. They can be works in progress. They can be already started. They can be almost finished. They don't have to be finished. Rules for that are in the Ravelry group, but basically if it is a lace, fingering, or sport weight project garment that you can wear in the summer, so the ripple bralette totally counts, you guys, it counts. It counts. It doesn't have to have anything. Just put a hashtag, enter, so you can be, eligible to win a prize. Our prizes are this gorgeous skein of rose gold from Amanda Hope Yarn. And there it is. This pack of stitch markers from her. There are 50 of them in here. I'm not sure how well you'll be able to see this, but there are black and white rings and triangles and a really cute little fleur-de-lis progress keeper. And yeah, that's the prize for winning the Summer Sun Make-Along. Yeah, great. Hooray. That has been running for since May, I believe. So that's about to close out. I don't have any plans on doing a fall make-along. There are a couple that I want to participate in, so I don't see any reason to get in, to host my own. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Speaking of knit-alongs that I want to get involved in and that I want to promote here on the podcast, I'll grab my notes here. There is a BIPOC make-along, so that's BIPOC, which stands for Black Indigenous People of Color. It is the hashtag BIPOC MAL 2019 on Instagram. It is any pattern from a person of color. All of the I'm so sorry. All of the information for that can be found at Desamore Designs. I will link to it below. And yeah, that runs for a while this fall. I'm actually not really sure. I do know that it overlaps into the other make-along that I want to participate, which is the Hohi Fall Cal 2019. Any pattern by Hohi. You do have to go to the Designs by Hohi Ravelry group and fill out the sign-up form. You have to do that by the 31st, and the knit-along starts on the 1st, so you have until Saturday. You have until, right? Sunday? Anyway, this weekend. You have until this weekend. So go in there. All you have to do is tell her what you plan on making, what weight you plan on making it in, and that's it. You just enter it. But if you don't enter it, you're not eligible for prizes. She's going to check that. So you can't cast on until the 1st. I plan to do a Radiate and a Spectre, another Spectre, which I will get into in Works in Progress because I have a story for you. And yeah, so I would be really happy to see you guys join in on that and to be able to chat about that. I might, yeah, we can chat about that in the comments below the videos and stuff if you want. If you want to send me a DM or comment on my posts on Instagram or on here and let me know what you're going to make for the Hohi Fall Cal, I would love to hear it. And if you get involved in the BIPOC Make-Along, if you plan to do the Hohi Make-Along, please enter into the BIPOC Make-Along. She is a Latinx person, and so she counts as a person of color, which is wonderful. And she's a wonderful designer, very size inclusive. I'm really, really excited to work on another project by her. So, I think that's about all the admin there is. So let's get into what I'm wearing. I am wearing my Hay sweater. This is by Clay Mountain. It is in issue 4 of Lane magazine, which we'll talk about a little bit later. It is knit out of Yarn on the House in the Little Brother base, maybe. It's the MCN, so it's an 80-10-10 merino cashmere nylon. It is in the pomegranate colorway, and I think it's absolutely beautiful. It's so soft, and it's lightweight, and it's wonderful. It's just probably one of my favorite sweaters. Yeah, so like I said, I'm intent on it being cozy today. I'm going to pretend it's autumn as long as I can be in the house. I do have to leave the house later, which is why I'm all made up, so boo to the end of the cozy. I have to go out into the stick. I'm not excited. All right. touching back on Lane magazine, I was reading on Instagram just a couple of hours ago that Yana posted up that she is struggling very, very hard with her mental health right now. And apparently issue 9 of Lane magazine, which is due to be released very shortly, might be their last. I'm kind of sad. I definitely don't think that Lane is a perfect publication. Their size ranges tend to be relatively limited, and there has been a lot of discussion regarding their diversity and inclusivity policies. But I feel like they were really open to making strides and were really trying to make strides, and it's sad to see them sidelined when I feel like they really could have been a wonderful publication. They could have really addressed their issues. But, mental health is it's a beast. It's a very ugly thing. So, best wishes to Yana. I hope that she gets a handle on it, and I hope that the team comes back. I hope they come back with a publication again later, and that they can incorporate the changes that they've been looking to incorporate, and that it's better than it was the first time. I hope so, because I really like Lane. So I guess I have to find a new favorite knitting magazine now. I really enjoy Pom Pom, but Pom Pom's patterns tend to be a little bit on the editorial side for me. I tend to like to look at them, but I don't really tend to knit from it. So, I have to revisit that though and see, because I really enjoy having books. I like having that, and I love the Ravelry feature where you can add magazines to your library, and then whenever you go to filter through your patterns, it will show you what's in your issues, so that you have a digital reminder that they exist, even if you do have to pull down the paper publication. And I think that that's just a really, really wonderful feature that they offer. I'm sorry. My eye is making me nuts, and I know that all I've done is mess with my face the whole time I've been on the camera. I'm working on it. I'm sorry. I know that's really aggravating. I find it aggravating when I'm editing anyway. So yes, that's what I'm wearing. That's my notes about Lane. Let's get into finished objects. This week I have one finished object for you, and it is my Spectre sweater. This is by Joji Locatelli. It is knit out of Sweet Sparrow yarns. I'm sorry, I just had a moment of wondering why I didn't wear this. It fits me. It's a little big, but it fits me. Could have worn it. This is the Spectre sweater by Joji Locatelli, and it is a faded sweater with this really beautiful reverse stockinette, and then this gorgeous yoke, this trellis yoke detail right here. It's knit out of Sweet Sparrow yarns in her magpie base. I'm not sure if the camera will pick it up. It has this beautiful, subtle gold stellina in it. It's just amazing. And this is the softest sparkle base I've ever used. It's just wonderful. So the top color here is Pajama Day, and we fade into this color here, which is wrapped up in books. We then progress down, and the first purple is Blackberry Mousse, and we go into Clove down at the bottom. Personally, were this my sweater, I might cut down these two lighter colors and then bring in some, so I could move that purple up and have some more of that clove. This is the most gorgeous color. See if the camera will pick it up. It's not brown, but it's not purple, but it's not, I don't know. I don't even know how to describe it, but it's my favorite right now, and I want a sweater in this really badly. So yeah, so this is my Spectre sweater. It is an oversized sweater. The only note that I have to make about this pattern, if you choose to make it, is to take a look at the length. Typically a sweater that will hit you, for my size, I'm sorry. So I'm 5'6", and typically a sweater that hits me right around the belt loops, like including ribbing, goes just past my belt loops onto my hips, is usually around the 14-inch range. I believe that this has you knit to more along the 16-inch range, and so it is a little bit longer than what I care to have my sweaters, but it is meant to be a cozy, drapey, it's just wonderful. It's just beautiful. Anyway. So I'm so sad that I have to give this up. I finished this last weekend, and I think I've sent Julie like 4 pictures of me wearing it because I just don't want to get rid of it, but I told her I was going to cry over it. But speaking of Julie and Sweet Sparrow and the Spectre sweater, I liked this so much and was so sad to have to give it up that I immediately cast one on for myself. And it's living in my... We're in works in progress now, guys. Can you tell? It's living in my Fat Squirrel magpie bag that I got recently, and I love it. And it is knit mainly in Olon in her single sock base. So this is my version of the Spectre. So the top color here is Alchemy. And as you can tell, I've gotten just through the yoke so far, and I have just started fading in my second color. My second color is from 6 and 7 fiber, and it's called Embers at Dawn. In just a minute, I'll pull them out so you can see them. But I finished it, and I separated, and I put it down, and I woke up this morning, and I looked at it, and I just don't love it. I feel like the speckling in Alchemy is a lot heavier than what I expected it was going to be. Obviously, it has some really beautiful mauves and purples and grays, but it does have some really dark colors. And it just... I alternated skeins with the Alchemy. I have 2 skeins of it, and I alternated because one of them was more heavily speckled than the other, and I was hoping that it would kind of space it out a little bit. But there's her speckle... Olon, her speckle technique is wonderful. It just happens to be a little bit heavier than what I was looking for on this sweater. So what I'm going to do with this is I am just going to rip it out. So I'm not happy with the top color, with the yoke color, and I'm not going to continue to knit a sweater that I think is going to be unbalanced. And I'm going to show you right now why I feel like it will be unbalanced. I will... maybe pop a picture here. I don't know. I'll try to show you just by hand, but if it doesn't work out, I'll pop a picture in so you can see. So this is my Alchemy color. And then it goes into this color, which is Embers at Dawn. This is 6/7 fibers. And then I want it to go into this One of a Kind from Olon. I was part of an Olon club earlier in the year. And so that one didn't come with a tag, or a name on it. And then this is another club color, and this is Canyon. So these are my fade colors right here. These are the 3 main fade colors that I have. And none of them have really dark speckles. They share speckles amongst one another. So this one has the very light mauve and then into kind of the darker fuchsias. And this one has a mauve and a gray and a fuchsia and then some of the orange. And then this goes into Canyon, and Canyon also has purpley speckles inside of it, but they're very hard to see because of the intensity of the orange. Now, what I had was this, and you can see that this is gray, and then this one is more of a warmer cream color. And so like I said, the speckles are just kind of throwing me off. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to replace it with this. And this is Pajama Day. So it's the first color in the Spectre that I just finished. And I feel like that's going to blend just so much nicer. And I don't know why I didn't think about doing that in the beginning. But I didn't. I had to get through a whole yoke before I realized that. Because that's my life. So that's my new plan, is a Spectre out of that. So it will go from Sweet Sparrow yarns in Pajama Day to 6/7 fibers in Embers at Dawn, to the One of a Kind Olon club color, to Olon single in Canyon. And I'm super, super excited about this. I think it's going to be wonderful. Also, the yoke to the Spectre is not only easy, but it's fun. So this will be my 3rd time knitting a yoke for the Spectre. Which is fine. It's fine. But since I am going to rip that out today, I think what I'm going to do is go ahead and enter it in the Hohi Fall Cal, and then I will start next week. So I will have 2 sweaters entered for the Fall Cal, which runs through November, I believe. So here's hoping. Wish me luck, because I'm not sure I'm going to make that. The only other work in progress that I have to show you this week is my sock. And you've seen this before on the podcast. I showed a hoe last week. And I got through the heel and onto the foot, and then I just stopped. I don't know. I guess I kind of thought that we might go see a movie this weekend. I thought we might go see the new Men in Black because it was my son's birthday, but we didn't go. And so now I'm wondering why I didn't just finish it. I could have finished this sock. It's been a couple weeks since I podcast, and I'll get into why later on this in the episode, but this is a Rose City Roller by Mara Catherine Briner. She has Orange Knits on Instagram. She has wonderful, wonderful shorty sock patterns. Actually, when I was first learning how to knit socks, I have really thick calves. And so there's a lot of, my cuff is 1 stitch count, and then I have to come down for the body, and then I have to come back down again for the ankle, and then my foot is fine or whatever. And I don't use a 64 stitch count. I use a 60 stitch. On a US size 1. Or on a US size 0. It just depends on the yarn. If the yarn is relatively thin, then I use a 0, and I still use a 60 stitch count. So for me, it was really kind of hard to find my sock recipe because I like my socks to fit really snugly. But when I found the Rose City Roller, these are my numbers. I use the Rose City Roller for everything. So I basically just use her pattern. And then like I'll change out the cuff. I'll change out the heel maybe. The heel that I use when I do a heel flap and gusset is the mini heel flap adjustment, and you can get that on Mina Phillip, who is Knitting Expat. She has a vanilla sock recipe, and it's in there. It's a just part of the pattern. It's a little addition, and that's the one that I use, and I love it. I love it a lot. The heel flaps are, a standard heel flap is normally longer. I don't really care for them that long. I don't need them to do that because I make shorties usually. So yeah, anyway, this is Chicken Coop Dye Works. She is a Dallas-based dyer. This is her Houston Fiberfest 2019 colorway, and it is called Hip, Funky, Savvy, Tasty. And it is based off of a street art that says Houston Be Inspired, and it's downtown. I have put pictures of that in before. You should be able to find that probably on the last episode or the episode before or something. So yeah, this is her Fiberfest colorway, and I really love it. The street art itself is very neon, but this is, it's autumn. It's autumn in a cake, you guys. It reminds me of that gem corn. I'll put in a picture of what I'm talking about in case you've never seen that before. I don't know if that's like a worldwide thing, if that grows everywhere, or if that's just a southern US, South America. I don't know. I don't even know where it comes from. Look at me talking all this nonsense. I don't even know what I'm talking about. That's really all I have to show you. I did some work on my ripple bralette. I finished the other side. So I had finished one side of the front, and I finished the second side of the front, and then I did some of the straps. It's double I-cord. It's a lot of fun. It's going. It still doesn't look like anything because I still can't put it on, but I'm hoping that if I can get my stuff together, if I get my act together, since I can't knit on my Spectre until next week, maybe this weekend I could use that time to finish my socks and finish my ripple bralette and get my whips down, and that would be great. Yay me! Don't hold your breath. We'll see if it happens. I have 2 maker plans I'd like to share with you. Just keep the knitting rolling since there's going to be enough chatter to... Yeah. There's going to be some chatter. But I do have a couple of maker plans. This I received a couple of days ago from Autumn and Indigo, and like I said, I don't have the camera facing me, so don't actually know if this is coming out color accurate. I'll put on the screen if it's not. But this is Dutch in her brand new base. The brand new base is called Local, and it is a small batch, hand dyed in Spokane, Washington. It is 100% American Rambouillet, 2-ply, 250 yards, 256 grams. So it is a fingering weight of Rambouillet. It's called Dutch, and it's very sheepy, very rustic. I'm very happy with it. I'm super, super excited about it. And this is destined to be a Noble Hill pullover by B Woolens, and I will put in a picture here so you can see it. So yeah, I'm excited about that. That's going to be a lot of fun to make. I'm really excited about this base. I've been working with Superwash exclusively all year. And I need something sheepy. Like, I'm done. I'm ready for something sheepier. So yeah, so I have the Noble Hill on maker plans, and then kind of doubling as my stash acquisition, I went to I'm going to have acquisitions kind of fade into life and chatter and stuff. So if you're not interested in what's been going on in my life for the last couple of weeks, thank you very much for stopping by. That's really fine. I get that. And otherwise, you might want to grab a drink. There's going to be a lot of it. It's been a busy time of year for us. So my stash acquisition, this year was the first year that we did that we had the Texas yarn crawl, and basically, a bunch of Texas yarn shops all got involved, from Austin to Dallas to Houston to wherever. And because I live in Houston, I'm fortunate to have 3 or 4 local yarn shops. Houston's a pretty sprawled out city. I went to my closest local yarn store that I actually used to work with. I used to work with Doris, and I haven't been in there since February, maybe. She had Amanda Hope Yarn giving a trunk show, and I wanted to stop in and see Wendy. I haven't seen her since Houston Fiber Fest, so I popped in to say hi, and I left with some stuff. This is my purchase from the Yarn Trail, and this is the Fiber Company. So this is the Fiber Company Cumbria, and it is a lustrous blend of brown Massam wool, merino, and mohair. Now, the first time that I picked this up, I saw the mohair and was like, for those of you who don't know, I don't like mohair. I don't enjoy working with it. It's just not my thing, and it's the hairy kind of weirds me out. I have a dog already. I'm always paranoid about trying to get hair out of my stuff. My dislike of mohair actually stems from the fact that I had LASIK in this eye a few years ago, and I would say maybe a year and a half after doing that was the first time that I ever tried mohair, and I ended up with this really terrible, I thought I had pink eye. I thought I had the worst case of pink eye ever imaginable, and I'm sitting in the parking lot about to walk into my doctor's appointment, and my eye itched, and so I went to scratch it or whatever, or, you know, to rub it, and I literally felt a fiber trail across my entire eye, and it hurt so bad. And then it came off, and I had a hair, and it was from my mohair skein, and I was so mad. And so I went in and I got some eye drops to help chill out the you know, the irritation or whatever. But I mean, I was absolutely miserable, and ever since then, I have to tell you honestly, that's not really an experience I want to repeat. So me and mohair are kind of, and I don't love the way it feels. I know everybody's obsessed with it right now, and to each their own. But it's not my favorite thing to work with. So, and I mean, doubling down on all of that. I live in a very, very humid climate. It just gets sticky, and so it's not really pleasant to work with here, even if I did like it. But this is 328 yards, 300 meters to 100 grams. It is 90% wool and 10% mohair. So the wool is a blend of Massam and merino, and I really love a sheepy wool. I really like Massam. It's a breed that I really, really enjoy, and it's not a base that you find super frequently. I know Amy Florence of Stranded has a Massam blend, and she brings it back for the fall and stuff, and she has some right now, I think, or she's had it in her last Hot Shop update. And yeah, I would have loved to have been able to purchase a sweater's quantity from that, but since I can't, and shipping from the UK is really expensive, I got this instead. I got it in 2 colors. I got it in Scaffold Pike and Eden Valley, which is this really beautiful teal kind of color. And so I was thinking about these. I might have too many. I probably have too many grays, but I really liked it, so I didn't care. I'm thinking about a dark water sweater from Jennifer Steingass. I also really would love to make the Once in Floral sweater by Max the Knitter. Maxim Sear, I believe is how you say his last name. I'll post a picture of it here. I would need a 3rd color, but I'm a sucker for a pun. You guys, you can get me to buy things based off of name alone. So he has another sweater called For Fox's Sake, and it's fox heads. And he has one called Frankly My Dear, which is a Henley opening. So it has the split opening, and it's deer. It's a deer chart. Oh my gosh. You can get me with a name so easily. So anyway, I was thinking about one of those, but I will probably end up doing the Jennifer Stein gas just because it'll be a little bit more plain, maybe? I don't know. I don't know yet. I might not. Who knows? Who knows? The Once and Floral would be a much more fun knit, I think, but I've discovered with my own personal style, I really like things that are pretty simple, pretty timeless. I don't really, I don't know. I'm still learning about my personal style, I guess. I've been talking about this a lot with some friends lately about how, especially when you have children, you kind of lose track of who that person was before you had kids because you change so much in order to keep another person alive. And your role changes in your life. And for me, because I was widowed when my son was so young, there's been a very mass amount of time. There's been a good 6-year chunk of time that I have not considered at all what I look like or what I'm wearing or what looks good on me or anything like that. So that's been a fun journey that I would probably like to kind of talk a little bit more about later on, but I'm not a fashion consultant, so like I don't really know what I'm talking about. And I have enough to talk about today. So we're going to table that discussion for another time. So yeah, I think that's all of my knitting. That's all of my knitting. I am waiting. I feel like I'm waiting on yarn. I think I'm waiting on yarn, but I don't really remember what it is. So maybe it's not, maybe I'm not waiting anymore. I know I was waiting on the Ottoman Indigo, but I've got that, so. Okay. Let's talk about life. Let's talk about life. I did not podcast last week. And I did not podcast because my son's birthday was on Saturday. He turned 8 and we had family over and we're just having a really good time. And I planned to podcast a couple days prior and I just wasn't in the headspace to do so. I got really busy last week actually, which is not really a great thing for me at this time of year. For those of you who don't know or have not watched my first episode, when my son was 2, we had his second birthday, and 2 weeks later, my husband was killed in a motorcycle accident on his way home from work. So this is the end of August and early September is a very weird time for me. It's been 6 years now, so I'm fine. Everything's fine. It's just we have birthdays, like I have birthdays from that side of the family, and because he passed away and we didn't divorce, I still maintain a relationship with them, obviously. So it's just weird, you mark time in funny ways, I think, whenever you go through tragedy. Yeah, also it is not my first tragedy and is not my first trauma. I'm a little sad to say that I'm pretty well versed in grief trauma, and I think that when you pile in, I've always had so much else going on in my life that has been traumatic enough during those times of grieving that I've never really maybe had time to face them. And so whenever my husband died and I had a 2-year-old, it was kind of everything came back and piled on. And so I feel like I don't feel like I've been recovering from my husband's accident so much as I've been just recovering from everything. I was very fortunate, and I did find another person to fall in love with, and we got married in 2015. So, life is great now. It's just kind of recovering from all of those things that I guess have happened. And for those of you who have never really gone through grief or tragedy, when it happens to you, it's almost like that person doesn't exist anymore. You change to survive, and you change because it alters who you are. And I feel honestly like I look back at my life and there are 6 or 7 books that are closed on a bookshelf that I don't open, and that those encompass my past. Like, I just don't open them. They have no relevance to my life now. They have no, they don't, I wonder if that makes sense. That makes this kind of a weird time for me, kind of weird time of year. So, The week before my son's birthday, my nieces all went back to school, so we spent the weekend spending time with them. Hector spent time at his grandmother so he could stay the night with them over there, and they all went back to school over this past week, and then Hector's birthday party came along, and everybody came over, and I just didn't have a chance to podcast. And I intended on podcasting really early in the week, like a Sunday or something, but then I was like, for what? I have 3 days before I'm supposed to podcast again, and I figured I would just take a week off. So during that time, I went and got, I don't know, a manicure and a pedicure with my sister-in-law, and I had coffee or lunch with somebody every day that week. My husband and I took a date night. Oh, the weekend before my son's birthday is my brother-in-law's birthday. I will have talked about that. We took him out for a really nice dinner, and it just, just marking time, and I'm not really in getting to like notice my days are going by so much as like, okay, I have X amount of time before this next thing happens. So it's just been really busy. And now we're kind of slowing down, and the slowdown sort of coincides with this weird spot in my life, that I was trying to get through, I guess. Probably should have written down some show notes so that I could organize what I wanted to discuss a little bit better. I was knitting a couple of days ago. My son pulled out a workbook for his school, and I turned on the stereo and he sat in the other room, and we have a very open floor plan. And so he sat at the homework table, and he was doing his math homework, and we were chatting, and I had the stereo on, and Spotify, I have a Spotify membership, and it recommended a band to me. And I was like, okay, like they sound kind of familiar. I wonder if I don't remember them really. And I clicked on it, and I know every word to that album. Every word. And it was like, oh, I remember these guys. And it was like the floodgates opened, and it was just, before I joined the military, I was probably like 17, 18. Like my dad had just passed away. I was moving. I had my own apartment. I was struggling very much to make ends meet. My mom and I were in a very, very not okay place. And it was just this flood of things that I had completely forgotten. So when I made that comment earlier about it seeming like I have 6 or 7 different lives that are on a bookshelf that I'm not that person anymore, and I don't explore that. It's almost like my brain has decided to wall off the things that it finds irrelevant so that I can focus on getting through, or existing. And it's wonderful to know that I'm healing enough that my brain is open to unsealing some of those things, and that I'm able to absorb those memories and kind of put that piece back into the puzzle of who I am, I suppose. But yeah, it's been a weird week. It's I would really love to do some research on the ways that your brain protects you after trauma, and what it does, and how it works, and why it works that way. So yeah, if you have any literature, or you've experienced any of these things, I would really love to hear it. You can pop it down below, or you can send me a DM on Instagram. I would love to know if you've experienced anything like that, or if you can direct me into, maybe you know more about it than I do. Would love to learn about it. Yeah. Otherwise, that's pretty much what's going on in my life. I follow a couple of comics, I suppose, like web comics on my Instagram. And one of them posted up that they were moving platforms, and they were going to an app called Webtoon. And I was like, okay, but I like them. They're really positive. They're really happy. It's called Cat's Cafe, and it's just really, it's a lot of positivity, and a lot of really, they're just cutesy. They're fluffy. They're cutesy. And I was like, all right, well, I'll follow that. That's okay. And it was like walking into a library. If you like comics, or hand-drawn artwork, or anime, or even just stories, if you just like stories, graphic novels, that kind of a thing, I highly recommend Webtoon. I'm not really an anime or manga kind of person. The art style doesn't really appeal to me. But Webtoon has a ton of stuff. So one that I found that I'm really into right now is Lore Olympus, and it's written by Rachel Smythe, and it is basically a modern retelling of Greek fairy tales, of Greek folklore. And so it centers around Hades and Persephone. So for those of you who don't know, the Greek myth of Hades and Persephone is that Hades came out of the underworld one day and saw Persephone picking flowers, maybe, and he abducted her. He kidnapped her and took her back to the underworld and basically made her his queen. And there are different tellings of it, but some tellings say that she didn't really mind so much. You know, I mean, obviously she was kidnapped, so I mean, I'm sure she was not cool with it at first, but basically some of the stories say that she ended up very much falling in love with Hades, and that she was happy to be the queen of the underworld. She's the goddess of spring. Her mother, Demeter, is the goddess of the crops and barley and stuff like that. And so basically when she found out that Hades had stolen her daughter, she went to Zeus, and Zeus basically told Hades he had to give her back, I guess. And Hades tricked Persephone into eating the seeds of a pomegranate, maybe, and then like she ended up stuck in the underworld. She couldn't leave. And so they came up with a compromise. And the compromise was that she would spend part of the year in the underworld and part of the year in Olympus, or in the mortal realm. I'm not sure which one it was, but basically that when her daughter was in the underworld with Hades, Demeter was so sad that the crops wouldn't grow. And so that's why we have fall and winter. And I love stuff like that. I just think that's so much fun. But Lore Olympus is a modern retelling. And so basically it's, the premise is that Persephone is actually a really young girl who goes to college in Olympus, and Olympus is not a mountain. Olympus is a modern day city. And she goes to a party, and Hades meets her, and he just falls like head over heels for her. And it's about them becoming friends and like having an interest in each other, but not being able to really talk about that. It explores some topics about like, it explores some of like Hades and who he is, and it presents him as a not a skirt chaser like Poseidon and Zeus, like his brothers. You know, it presents him and even in folklore he was presented to have never really fallen in love, or really never been that guy. But it talks about Hera sets him up because she knows he has a crush on Persephone, and so she issues a test, and she makes Persephone an intern in the underworld, which is another part of the city, but the underworld is run as a corporation. And so she ends up interning for Hades, and it's just really fun. It's a lot of fun. So I really highly recommend that story. That's been one of my absolute favorites lately. Another one that I've enjoyed has been Siren's Lament, and it is about a girl who accidentally falls into the ocean and gets kissed by a siren, so like a mermaid, a merman. And how it's supposed to work is that if you're brokenhearted and you're kissed by a siren, your memories are wiped away. You live as a siren and in the ocean, and so you don't remember your heartbreak, and it's your second chance. And then you find another human who's heartbroken to pass the curse on to, and then you get to go on about your human life. So you never get those memories back, but you remember being a siren so that you don't make the same mistake again. And it's about her. She gets kissed by the siren, but the curse doesn't go all the way to her. They kind of share it. And it's about this siren becoming friends with this girl that he thought he was gonna like kiss and leave, and didn't get to do that, and he ends up becoming friends with her. And her boyfriend, it'd be like with her and her boyfriend, he ends up becoming friends with them, and like basically like finding out that there's a value to life or whatever. It's just really good. It's really good. One that I think the artwork is really stunning on is SubZero, and it is about a dragon princess and a prince, and I'm not going to give away any of the story, but basically the dragon princess is from one clan, and they've been fighting another clan for generations, and basically to stop the fighting she agrees to marry him, to marry the prince of the other clan, and they don't know anything about each other, and there's been this like blood deep hatred, and it's kind of about them coming to terms. But the artwork on it is stunning. It's absolutely stunning. You scroll through and it's like being in a movie, and some of them have like soundtracks that go with it. It's really cool. Can you tell I'm excited? Anyway, that's been my new discovery of things. For those of you who don't know, since the accident, I can't read. I can't read anything that I've never read before. I can't read, I just can't read. Like, I have to basically know everything about it. So, not that she'll ever watch my podcast, but thank you, Nikki of Tea and Possibilities, for your Here Be Spoilers sections, because they have been wonderful. Game of Thrones, I'm not able to read that. It doesn't, I don't know, my anxiety gets really high, and it is really violent, and that's okay. Like, I don't necessarily mind that, but it's not really my cup of tea. There's a lot of the royal politics thing that I just don't love, that kind of stuff, I guess. But, you know, she does a Here Be Spoilers, and she talks about it, and so it's like I kind of got the fun of it. Like, I've seen enough of the imagery that I know kind of what it's about, but she gives you the details, and she gives you a synopsis of why she thought this. And I just think that's so fun. That's so fun. But yeah, movies and books are a little hard for me, which is really ridiculous because I devour books, like unbelievable. But I think that the most recent thing that I've been able to get through that was new was Outlander. And I think it's because it's a historical fiction and I know quite a bit about that period anyway, and it interests me. The good thing about books is that you can kind of flip through the parts that are a little, you know, or you don't really know if you really want to read. I did find the TV adaptation of Outlander to be fine. And because I've been able to read the books it's made watching it, like I knew what was coming. And they, for the first 3 seasons, were absolutely tracking with the books. Like that was almost a perfect adaptation. So, yeah. Okay, there you go. Prattle. So I apologize for the lack of like real knitting content in this. I feel like my life and gabbing update kind of took over there on that. But I did just kind of want to touch base with you and let you know that things have been, it's kind of a really tough time for me right now. So I'm hoping to get a podcast out next week, but I'm going to be blunt. It kind of varies hour to hour. And, this is a time of year that I just try to be really gentle to myself. You know, we go through, summers are nothing but birthdays. So I think that we have a birthday like every week for 12 weeks. So it's really hard for my husband and I to get personal time because it's also a time that his job works a lot. So he ends up on a lot of overtime. So we miss each other a lot. And then, you know, during the summer we try, like, you know, my son will go to grandma's house for the weekend so he can spend time with his cousins and stuff, and we'll try to get date nights in. But sometimes you're just tired. And then that finally breaks, but that break is kind of like this hard period for me, and then football starts. And so during the first half of football season, a lot of times my husband will work Saturday mornings on top of his weekly schedule, which means that I get like half a day on Saturday, and then we have football on Sunday. And in Texas, football starts at noon. So it takes up that midday chunk, you know, from like noon to 4 or 1 to 3 or what, you know what I mean, in that range. And family comes over for that. So we basically see family every week for 9 months of the year. And they're wonderful people. I have a ton of fun with them. But we're a big family. When we get together, there's between 12 and 16 of us at any given time. And we are fortunate enough to have the biggest house in the family. Maybe not the biggest house, but the one with the most usable space for a group. And so I have no problem hosting, but you know, it's tiring. It's exhausting, even when it is family and even when it is people that you love. And when it's a time like this where I'm already struggling, I don't tend to be the best hostess. I'm, like I said, I'm very fortunate that it is family, and they are such good people because they just know, and they just take it, and I'm very, very grateful for that. But I will try to maintain podcasting schedule. Like I said, I'm making pretty good progress on stuff. I have lots of fun stuff coming up to show you. I'm really excited about fall. Please share your fall stuff with me. Let me live vicariously through the fact that you guys might have seasons. Help. Anyway. I think I'm going to cut it off there. Otherwise, I'll get into another tangent and we'll just sit here and talk for the next 3 hours. So, thank you so much for stopping by, staying with me. Thank you for coming back again and again if you do. Yeah. Name contest. I'll pick out a prize. There'll be a skein of yarn in it for you. And Somerset Make Along, put in your entries. That way I can draw prizes this weekend. Please consider entering in the Ho-He Fall Cal or the BIPOC Make Along. Let me know what you're doing. Let me know what you're up to. I would love to hear about it. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. Tell your friends. When we get to 100 subscribers, I will do another giveaway. I like to do giveaways. I like to give things, so any excuse I can come up with, but I need y'all to help me out. So let's do that. All right. I will talk to you guys hopefully next week, and hope you have a wonderful knitty week. Bye.